Back everyone, we're going to go ahead and do another camera comparison between the iPhone 12 Pro and the iPhone 11 Pro. Now, I took all these photos in a batch set of phones and I pretty much took them at the exact same location, exact same times, all that pretty much things. I mean, it's probably like seconds or minutes apart from each other, but not a big deal. And what I found between these two phones, and even yesterday between the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 11, there were a couple subtle changes, but it wasn't really that big of a deal, and a lot of them I think were software improvements, nothing really to do with the camera at all, at least the camera hardware. Now, like I said, both these phones have pretty much the exact same camera setups on the back, except for that additional LiDAR sensor for the iPhone 12 Pro, which is really cool. All 12 megapixel sensors, telephoto, and ultra-wide sensors on both phones. On the front, you can do 4K at 60, which is also extremely cool. So I took videos, I took your guys' advice and did some low light shots as well. And if they have night mode like both of these do, then I pretty much just used it. So let's go and take a look at the first photo. Now the iPhone 11 Pro photos for this whole entire video and even the videos will be on the left side. The iPhone 12 Pro videos and photos will be on the right side. And looking at this first photo, you can already see that there's a pretty big difference, especially when it comes down to this focal point on the middle. Now, one thing I really want to say is that I'm pretty sure a lot of these changes, like I stated before, are software, because this is just a filter that was overlaid on this specific photo. And it's kind of doing like what Samsung did with their Galaxy S10 to S20 or S10 last year. Now, looking at this first photo, if I go ahead and zoom into this like green leaf up top, this is where I saw pretty big differences in yesterday's comparison. You can see how it's kind of blurred out a little bit more on the iPhone 12 Pro. And another thing, if you look at the side of this little rose thing, you can see that it's a little bit more in focus, I think, on the iPhone 12 Pro than on the iPhone 11 Pro. So that's a pretty big thing in my opinion. Again, not like a end-all be-all little thing. The rest of the photo, though, looks pretty good on both, and I don't think there's really one that looks way better than the other one. But I think the iPhone 12 Pro would probably be my cup of tea here. But I swear, if you just add a filter over this specific photo, it'll probably end up looking more or less the same, if I'm being honest. Now, this next photo was taken indoors in pretty okay lighting. It wasn't super nice, if I'm being honest, but I wanted to see how a typical shot, if you're inside your house, if you're doing a Snapchat or something like that, how it would look. And you can see how both phones kind of interpreted the color. Now, if I zoom into the focal point, the middle point on both, you can see that I pretty much, again, I let these autofocus too. I didn't tap to focus or anything like that. And you can see both phones kind of, focused in at the same time. A little bit more blurriness, I guess, on the iPhone 12 Pro. The iPhone 11 Pro did, I think, an overall better job on the photo. But when I go somewhere like here, I kind of like this texture. And I feel like this might be more true to life than the yellowness going on for the iPhone 11 Pro. So this specific photo is very interesting on both. And even if I go up top to like this specific brown section right there, we might be able to see some more noise on the iPhone 11 Pro, and we are able to see more noise. And that's a pretty big deal. I think, like I said, maybe a little bit more software improvement on the iPhone 12 Pro, but there's a little bit more noise on the iPhone 11 Pro. When you look at this side, there's actually more noise on the iPhone 12 Pro. So this is very weird. It's a lot of flip-flopping going on. I don't know if one is necessarily the winner here. Now, this was also taken indoors, and one thing I wanted to see that I saw yesterday, that if you look into this middle section right here, you can kind of see how both phones kind of interpreted this cement. And I think maybe the iPhone 11 Pro kind of actually looks a little bit better here, which is really surprising. This photo actually does look pretty decent in my opinion. The iPhone 11 Pro's photo looks good. I think the iPhone 12 Pro photo looks alright. None of these photos look perfect, but I think in this case, I'm seeing more definition and more, I guess, darkness going on the iPhone 11 Pro. I feel like this is more accurate. The iPhone 12 Pro kind of seems bland, which is very interesting. Now, this next photo was also taken outdoors, and I kind of took a little bit of a weird angle on the iPhone 11 Pro, but again, you can kind of see the same thing going on, the same filtering on the iPhone 12 Pro that I've showcased before. And even with something like the leaf, I don't want to get too much in detail about the specific angles, but you can see again the blurriness in the background. Not so much blurriness going on for the iPhone 11 Pro. The iPhone 12 Pro, there is a ton of blurriness going on, which is very interesting. So I won't take too much time in this specific photo because I did take them at weird angles, so I don't really understand how that happened. Now, this specific photo is just of a lawn chair, and one thing that I showcased yesterday that I'll go ahead and showcase again, if I go ahead and zoom into this specific portion, you'll be able to see that, again, the iPhone 12 Pro, there's a little bit of filtering going on. I think the iPhone 11 Pro, for the most part, also looks really good. And like I stated before, I would not go from one phone to the other just because of the filtering, because I'm pretty sure you can replicate this type of filter on the iPhone 11 Pro. If you go down right here, you can actually see that the iPhone 12 Pro did a little bit more blurring on the background. And you can definitely see that if you look at right here, it doesn't really seem too much blurriness. I mean, I think the iPhone 12 Pro did a really good job. And again, this was all autofocus. I didn't go and tap the focus on any of these. So I definitely see a better kind of improvement on the iPhone 12 Pro than on the iPhone 11 Pro in this case. Now, this was an example of portrait mode on both phones. So I went ahead and just did portrait mode and I saw how it was on both. And I kind of saw the same thing going in on both of them. Now, if I go ahead and kind of zoom into both little teddy bears in the bottom or whatever, you can see that the same thing's kind of going on again. I didn't really see a big difference in yesterday's comparison, and this one is more or less the same. I feel like the iPhone 11 Pro did a better job. This one photo kind of looks a little bit warmer. This one looks a little bit brighter, and I actually kind of like that. And one thing I want to showcase is if I go ahead and zoom into this little cotton ball, whatever this thing is, it kind of seems a little blurry on the iPhone 12 Pro. Maybe it's just me, but the iPhone 11 Pro actually does look a little bit better here. The rest of the photo looks almost identical on both as well. I don't really see a ginormous difference, but that out of the blue was something that I immediately saw, so that was definitely interesting doing both. So I think portrait mode on both these phones is probably going to be about the same. Now this was another photo taken indoors. I took your guys' advice. You guys said you wanted night mode photos, and this photo was taken in really bad lighting, like probably the worst lighting ever. And you can still see that both did a really good job because these photos look so much more brighter than what was actually there. But you can kind of see that the iPhone 11 Pro looks a little bit darker. The iPhone 12 Pro looks a little bit lighter. If I go ahead and not necessarily focus in on the blurriness of both devices, but if I go ahead and just look at something like this, again, it looks a little bit more, brighter on the iPhone 12 Pro just by a little bit than on the iPhone 11 Pro. If you look in the back, you can see a little bit more light going on in back there. The iPhone 11 Pro a little bit darker, and I think night mode will probably end up being overall better on the iPhone 11 Pro than on the iPhone 12 Pro. But I think both these phones are actually pretty decent, and they did a really good job at kind of showcasing again, the night mode capability on both these devices. But I think the iPhone 12 Pro is probably the better one here. It looks brighter overall than the iPhone 11 Pro. And to kind of continue on that, these two were taken at the exact same time as well, and you can see that it kind of flip-flopped a little bit here. The iPhone 12 Pro looks a little bit warmer. The iPhone 11 Pro looks a little bit brighter. Now, some people may prefer this, some people may prefer this. If I go ahead and zoom out to this specific little light that was going on right there, this kind of seems lighter on the iPhone 12 Pro though, so the background kind of flipped out a little bit, and the foreground image, which is where probably focusing on, this one ended up being lighter in general than the iPhone 12 Pro. So that's another big thing in my opinion. I don't know if one is necessarily the better winner here, but maybe the iPhone 12 Pro gets the better background, the iPhone 11 Pro gets the better foreground. Now I went ahead and just used the ultra-wide camera on both phones if they had it, and in this case they did. And you can see they both pretty much zoomed out as much as they could. If I go and zoom into the fire grill in the middle, you can see that, again, the same exact thing is going on. I don't really think you're going to be noticing any big differences between this specific case. If I go and zoom into like this stick right here, it actually kind of looks a little bit more in focus on the iPhone 12 Pro, and they actually done a better job on the iPhone 12 Pro. Even the stones look a little bit more in focus on the iPhone 12 Pro using that ultra-wide sensor. So that is definitely something really interesting. I wasn't expecting that difference, but maybe the iPhone 12 Pro has a better ultra-wide sensor as well, and maybe it's noticeable by a little bit. And I went ahead and just zoomed in from the exact same location at the exact same, place, from the same distance using the telephoto lens, and both of them kind of zoomed in the same time. But I like the iPhone. I kind of like both, again, a little bit more filtering going on for the iPhone 11 Pro. I don't think that this one is the way better one than this one by any means, but both of them look pretty good. Maybe some people may prefer the darker photo, some people may prefer the lighter photo, so that's another thing to keep in mind kind of. Now I want to go ahead and showcase the video that I went between both of them, and this is just like a portrait video that I did, and they actually did pretty good. They look almost identical. I don't think one looks way better. I was looking for things like changing in the lighting, and if one is way more pixelated, the blurring of the background on both videos, and both of them look almost identical, so I don't think there's one video on one phone that looks way better. These were shot at 1080p at 30, so again, video resolution and the way the videos are taken, if you're taking things on Snapchat or TikTok, they're going to be roughly about the same in my opinion. So portrait mode video, that pretty much covers that. Now looking at another photo that was taken outside, this kind of furthers the claim of just, the overall filtering that's going on. Now if you look at something like this specific section right here on both, you can kind of see that again. This is where things kind of get a little bit more, I guess, not in detail, but just a little bit more filtering that you're able to visibly see. I think, in my opinion, the iPhone 11 Pro photo looks just a tad bit better. I don't think this one looks way worse or anything like that, But I think when it comes down to the detail of the photo, like when it comes down to the flowers, I like it more on the iPhone 11 Pro, but the leaves do actually look noticeably better on the iPhone 12 Pro. So if I go and look here, the leaves on the iPhone 11 Pro, this is very subtle, look a little bit less, brighter, and the colors look less punchy. The iPhone 12 Pro did a better job at kind of making those colors look a little bit more punchy, which is something I actually like. And even if you look at the base right here, it looks pretty good too. So again, I don't think one looks way better, but I think I may like the iPhone 12 Pro's, leaf section, but I like the iPhone 11 Pro's kind of, flower section, if that makes any sense. This is just like a basic photo I did between both. I really don't think it's that much time that I want to spend on. And I think this is the last photo between them, and this is just like some flowers and stuff going on. Again, I let them focus in naturally, and the iPhone 12 Pro wanted to focus in on, I guess, this back section, which is nice. And you can see that even the leaf looks a little bit better and a little bit more punchy in the color section than the iPhone 11 Pro. And I think, like I said before, Apple really took a note from Samsung, and Samsung last year and this year, they did a lot of filtering post-processing, and it seems like they did the same thing this year with the iPhone 12 Pro series, even with the iPhone 12 series, a lot more filtering going on. I think the iPhone 12 camera, for the most part, the 12 Pro, is a good camera too, but I think there's really not a crazy difference besides the filtering, and I feel like you can replicate that still on the iPhone 11 Pro. Now I'll go ahead and end it off with a video that I made between them. I'll go ahead and test the video and audio quality and kind of give you my opinion towards that. Okay, here we go. We got the iPhone 12 Pro and the iPhone 11 Pro. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and use the microphone from the iPhone 11 Pro, and you can probably see that the videos are almost exactly the same. You can probably see the exact same colors and everything, and I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the audio from the iPhone 12 Pro, and you can probably see more or less the same, maybe audio quality. I'm not too sure, I haven't seen it yet, but hopefully there is a difference. Hopefully Apple put in that newer studio quality microphone. I'm going to go ahead and shake both to see if there's any optical image stabilization. I'm shaking both pretty hard, I don't know, but yeah. And there's also some white noise in the background, so I'll go ahead and stop talking so you guys can maybe hear that and see which one is better. So I'll do the 11 Pro first, and I'll switch over to the 12 Pro. And I think they're about the same. Let me go ahead and zoom in over here to the specific things. Maybe there's a difference. Not really. They're both kind of looking exactly the same for the most part. Now, to kind of sum up this video, as you guys saw the video, the quality and audio quality, I really think that there's not a humongous difference between either one of these devices. I genuinely think if you have an iPhone 12 Pro or if you have an iPhone 11 Pro, I wouldn't really go from an 11 Pro to the 12 Pro just based off the camera. Like I said, I think you can actually mimic a lot of these, I guess, new filtering options that, Apple has done in the post-processing. Really, with just the stock camera app, there's a lot of filtering you can do. Even with Instagram and Snapchat, you can change up a lot, and I feel like the colors overall look more punchy naturally on the iPhone 12 Pro camera, which is something that's really nice. But there's a lot of similarities. They have the same video resolutions you can film in, same camera setup. You're just getting that additional LiDAR sensor on the iPhone 12 Pro, which is really cool. And I already showcased what you can do with that camera on my second channel, and if you want to watch that video, I'll go and link it down in the description. But like I said before, I wouldn't necessarily go from the 11 Pro camera to the iPhone 12 Pro camera, but I think the 12 Pro is a really good camera, and I still think the 11 Pro is still super solid. If the iPhone 12 Pro camera was like a 10 out of 10, I would probably say the iPhone 11 Pro camera is easily like a 9.6. That still has a lot of capability behind it, and like I said, the user interfaces of them are almost identically the same too. So I think more or less both cameras are great. The 12 Pro is better, but the 11 Pro is still almost exactly the same. So that really pretty much covers it up for the most part. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.